Hi guys, my name is Mohammad Javid. Performance is my passion, and today on the Young Driver, I'll be explaining all the benefits of Tesla and why in general, it could very well be the future of the automotive world. But a common misconception with this company is that just because it makes electric cars, it's suddenly innovative. And while in part that is kind of true, it's good for the environment. The idea of an electric car isn't new. There was one put into production as soon as 1899. So, as previously mentioned, it's not a brand new idea. It's been around for more than 100 years at this point. But because of several reasons, which I'll cover in another video, internal combustion engines did take off compared to electric cars. But after about 100 years or so now, um, it's starting to make more and more sense as to why people should start investing into electric cars and why Tesla is starting to make more and more sense the more we move on. Because, for starters, oil is starting to run out, or just fossil fuels in general, they're starting to go away pretty quickly. And the other thing is global warming is a huge issue in our day and age. So, if you could get rid of one of the biggest factors, which is cars, then you could do the environment serious good over time. So, a little bit of background history on the company Tesla in general before we get going as to why it's very innovative. Now, Tesla has been around since about 2007, and what their very first car was a sportier car. It was called the Roadster, and it used the chassis of a Lotus Elise essentially, and basically similar body parts, not the same exact ones, but what Tesla did was they put their own drivetrain into it and several other key aspects, key components like that were different between the two cars. But at first they were kind of a duo between Tesla and Fisker Automotive, which over time they had several issues with each other, and Fisker broke off. They're now their own company. They're a startup in California. They haven't been doing very well in the past couple of years, but Tesla did manage to stick around. Their next vehicle was the Model S, which was their first true well-known car. That's the first true Tesla because not that many people actually know of the 2007 Roadster. The one that made them popular, that put them on the map, was the Model S. And that's been around since about 2011, early 2012, and it's been a pretty good vehicle. But over time, they've started to make more and more vehicles, sharing some of the parts, creating new parts. But in general, it's been around with us for about 11 years now. Now, one of the more interesting components of Tesla vehicles in general has always been the electronics they use, and they're basically no other automotive company has actually made anything this well in terms of screens to put into use on their vehicles. Now, if you've ever actually sat in a Tesla or owned one, you'd find out that most of the key functions are on a center screen, and currently it's the biggest one in production. And the other key aspect with the screen is that it uses some space age electronics, which isn't very far off when you start thinking about it, because Elon Musk has basically he has Tesla under his name, and he also has SpaceX, which was the creator of the biggest industrial rocket put into use ever. So it's not very strange that he has access to such electronics in his company. But Tesla also has autopilot, which is basically considered by many people to be the very first self-driving system. Now, there is no current fully self-driving system because they're not really allowed anywhere at the current moment. Current legislation doesn't allow it, but Tesla was one of the first ones to actually be able to change lanes on its own, follow a basic route, do most of the things. It's basically like automatic cruise control that keeps distance, but it could also change lanes and do several other things and completely come to a stop if that's what it thinks is necessary. Now, even though that's been an option for the past couple of years with Teslas, don't get the idea that it's not going to be fully self-driving. The thing with Teslas is that they now have something like 1.3 billion miles covered by their research cars with the systems put into use. So they have about 1.3 billion miles of actual research that they've done, and they've just perfected their code over time using general observations they've been able to make from those test vehicles. So, in terms of that, there's no current competitor that could actually compete with that amount. Sure, there's uh, some GM vehicles that are starting to get into this whole field, or Google has tested their systems, but in terms of research with the actual system initiated, Tesla currently has the most amount racked up. The other thing with their system is that every single vehicle, whether you equip the option or not, has all the hardware to be completely 100% self-driven. All of these things, with ambition, I think it could be done. That's one thing that Tesla has that a lot of its competitors that have been around for nearly 100 years now is that they have ambition, and the other companies kind of don't. That's what they lack compared to Tesla. Whereas Tesla, they for example, they have ludicrous mode. Now, there was sport mode before that, but they were kind of creative in the way that they called it ludicrous mode, and that they said, hey, if we're going to make an electric car, why not give it 700 to 800 horsepower? And they did. Whereas, a lot of its competitors still don't do that with gasoline engines today. So with that, that if there is an ambition and a want for it, Tesla could possibly do it. Now, even though Tesla does have a lot of ambition and a lot of value in terms of stock at the moment, they have had their challenges in the past 11 years now, and one of the key ones is just manufacturing in general. Now, one of the things that traditional companies have to their advantage at the current moment is that they have about 100 years of, just consistent manufacturing. That's all they've done. So that's what they could do pretty well. That's techniques that Tesla doesn't really have at the current moment. Now, they do have one of the biggest actual factories in the world in terms of car production. Not just car production, but manufacturing in general. Planes, boats, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're one of the biggest ones. And they did start off in Fremont, California, and that used to be a company that technically was a joint venture between GM and Toyota, but they basically emptied it out and put their own machines inside. But it's still very hard to make all the systems interconnected. This piece comes in here, that comes in there, and it's just things that over time, like, for example, the robots that build the cars physically, that's something that a company like Toyota, Ford, or Honda have already perfected. They know how to program it. They know how to reduce the margin for error within those kind of things. Whereas Tesla kind of doesn't have that. They've only been around for 11 years. That's not even that's about a tenth of what the other companies have to their name. But having said that, even though manufacturing's been slow in the past, it's actually starting to amp up a little bit. So, for example, with the Model 3, which is their most popular car in terms of how many people want to actually get their hands on it, they've built 100,000 of those this year. That has resulted in some reduction in quality. Now, over time, when a good company comes out, or a company with a good business model comes out, over time there's going to be competitors for it, obviously. And Tesla has its fair share of upcoming competitors. Now, some of the main ones to cover is, some of the more traditional companies that have started getting into the business. One of the bigger ones is the Jaguar I-Pace, which has gotten pretty close in terms of the numbers, but the biggest thing these companies lack is just physical ambition, first of all. They don't have the pre-existing supercharger networks, and they don't have the 1.3 billion miles of self-driving under their belts, whereas Tesla already has that. So, these big companies, they would have to fix that. But what they do have is they have mass production and good quality in general to their advantage. So that's one thing Tesla will have to watch out for over time. Now, there's also new competition, new competitors that come out every single year, and the issue with these is that they just don't know how to make a good company. That they have the same sort of issue that Tesla currently has. They don't know how to mass produce a vehicle, first of all, and the second thing is they're very ambitious, but a little over ambitious with the things they say, which some of it isn't really achievable with the kind of budgets they have, the time they have. It's not doable within that time frame. So, the Tesla's kind of a good balance in the term that it's very realistic in the goals that it has because it could achieve them, but it also is starting to get better at fixing all the quality issues that they used to have in the past. Now, another advantage to Tesla in general compared to its competitors is that even though a lot of car companies do have one or two electric models, Tesla is all electric. So they have their small sedan, the Model 3, the one that's supposed to sell most. They have their big sedan, the Model S, the very luxurious one. They also have the Model X SUV with, the going doors and everything. And all three of these vehicles currently are electric. Now, they will also make a Roadster 2, which is they claim something like 250 miles an hour, 0 to 60 of about 2 seconds, which is pretty believable if you ask me. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. They're also in development of a truck at the moment and several other vehicles that a lot of people don't know about, but that's their whole model range in general. So what is my verdict on the company in general? Now, having said all the facts and all the different aspects of it, my verdict is that, as a company, it's not really just a car company. Tesla is more than just a car company. It's a technology company, I would say, because what they're doing is pretty innovative compared to everything else in the market at the moment. And, the sort of customers that actually buy the cars are a little bit more different. You have people like the famous tech enthusiast Marcus Brownlee, who's seriously into their vehicles as well. So, having said that, it's not just your traditional car company that has to look, at 100 years of history before they make another vehicle. If I had to sum it up in one sentence, I'd say it's more of a Silicon Valley type of company than it is one that would take place in Detroit, in Motown. So, having said that, I think it's a very innovative company that will stick around for many, many years and could very well make the basis of the future, depending on the sort of decisions they make in the upcoming years. So that's pretty much it on Tesla for this week. Now, go ahead and tell me what you thought of the video. Also, tell me if you want me to make similar videos on other car companies. I might do the same if you guys enjoyed this one. But having said that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with friends, comment your thoughts on it in general. And as always, my name is Mohammad Javid. Performance is my passion, and I'll see you all on the Young Driver.